We have a beautiful new question entity class that is supposed to map to a question table in the database. But that table does not exist yet. How can we create it? Well, because Doctrine has all of this configuration about the entity, like the fields and field types, it should, in theory, be able to create the table for us. And it absolutely can. The mechanism we use to make database structure changes is called migrations. At your terminal, run bin console make migration. And that fails. Access denied for user db user. Of course, the command doesn't have access to the Docker environment variables. I meant to run Symfony console make migration. This time, cool. It generated a new file inside of a migrations directory. Let's go check it out. In migrations, open the one new file and awesome! It has an up method with the exact SQL we need. Create table question and then all of the columns. The make migration command is smart. It compares the actual database, which has 0 tables at the moment, with all of our entity classes, just one right now, and then generates the SQL needed to make the database match those entities. It saw the question entity, but no question table, and so it generated the create table statement. But this query has not been executed yet. To do that, run bin console doctrine migrations migrate. But be careful. We can't use bin console directly. Instead, run Symfony console doctrine migrations migrate. And congratulations! We have a new question table in the database. The way the migration system works is really cool. Run another command, Symfony console doctrine migrations list. This shows all the migrations in your app, which is just one right now. Next to that migration, it says status migrated. How does it know that? Behind the scenes, the migration system created a table in the database called doctrine_migration_versions. Each time it executes a migration file, it adds a new row to that table that records that it was executed. That means that later, if you run Symfony console doctrine migrations migrate again, it's smart enough to not execute the same migration twice. It looks at the table, sees that it already ran this, and skips it. When you deploy to production, you'll also run doctrine migrations migrate. When you do that, it will check the doctrine migrations versions table in the production database and execute any new migrations. Before we keep going, you know what? When we created the question entity, I forgot to do something. The slug column should really be unique in the database because we will eventually use that part of the URL to query for the one question that matches. One of the options you can pass to @orm/column is unique equals true. That won't change how our PHP code behaves. This doesn't relate to form validation or anything like that. This simply tells Doctrine, hey, I want this column to have a unique constraint in the database. Of course, just making this change did not magically somehow add the unique constraint to the database. To do that, we need to generate another migration. Cool. At your terminal, once again, run Symfony console make migration to generate a second migration file. Let's go check it out. And whoa! It's a create unique index statement for the slug column. The migration system compared the question table in the database to the question entity, determined that the only difference was a missing unique index, and then generated the SQL to add it. Honestly, that's amazing. Let's go run it. Symfony console doctrine migrations migrate. This sees both migrations, but only runs the one that hasn't been executed yet. The slug column is now unique in the database. So this is the workflow. Create a new entity or change an existing entity, run make:/migration, and then execute it with doctrine:/migrations:/migrate. This keeps your database in sync with your entity classes and gives you a set of migrations that you can run when you deploy to production. Next, it's time to create some question objects in PHP and see how we can save those to the question table.